Hello, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I have concluded my Star Trek Discovery marathon, what is turning into like a bit of a new Trek marathon. Although I started with Enterprise. And then I did Discovery Season 1, 2, and then I did Strange New World Season 1 to 3, and now I've gone, jumped into the 31st century and done Season 3, 4, and 5 of Star Trek Discovery. And then I'm doing Picard, because even though technically it's before, I wanted to end off with Picard Season 3. But so 10 episodes, shortest season. I thought last season was 10 episodes, which meant I was having a real struggle to get it done in the time I'd allotted, because I was only allowing for 10 episodes, not 13. But yeah, this season was okay. It wasn't my kind of adventure. Like, I don't really like that sort of Indiana Jones relic hunt, sort of MacGuffin hunt, which is sort of what a lot of the episodes were. And then the other sort of part of it was more just fighting the Breen and fighting Maul, like getting down to that last sort of puzzle piece and battle, and it was okay. It was well produced, it was well done, it just wasn't really my kind of story. Season 4 was sort of peak for me. It was the one season where there was nothing wrong, everything went right, felt like Star Trek, and I just wish they could have, gotten to that in the first season and repeated that every season. Instead, they seem to go in another direction, like, well, we did that, now let's do this. I'm like, but that was Star Trek. So, yeah. So the first episode, Red Directive, I called it Red Order in the, I knew that sounded wrong. In my sort of overview for the season, I referred to the Red Directive as Red Order. So the first episode is called Red Directive, and we find out there's this thing that's like in a Romulan ship that's been damaged, and they have to try and salvage it, and they are beaten by a couple of scavengers, Locke and Mole, and then they're chasing them for the rest of the season, basically trying to get this puzzle completed. So they're looking for these puzzle pieces each time. We see Gray and Adira basically resolve their relationship, because obviously they're like 12 years old. They're obviously going to grow apart. They weren't going to be together forever. It was an annoying story, like, a teen love story. What's the point of that? It's, are we going to learn anything from that? Maybe if we're 10. So that sort of concluded. And then they managed to put a time, Locke and Mole managed to get onto the planet undetected and put a time bug, which is like a little spider, on Adira's costume uniform, and then it gets onto the ship, and it puts the ship into a time loop, which is one of the better episodes, where every sort of few minutes they end up resetting, and they're trying to work that out and trying to... So it's a little bit like the Harry Mudd episode and Cause and Effect, but more like the Harry Mudd episode, because they actually, just the way it works. So it was interesting. I liked it, seeing Discovery in different eras, but seeing her with the other Michael Burnham and how angry Michael was, I'm like, I don't remember her being that angry. I remember her being arrogant and depressed, but I don't remember her being so angry. It was like they got confused with the Mirror Universe Burnham or something. She was just really aggressive. But they do talk her down, and I enjoyed it. What was the next episode? Episode 2, Under the Twin Moons. That was when they were looking for a planet which had twin moons, but it was actually two moons travelling in sync with each other, even though I think the planet actually had 3 moons. They found the tech, basically. It wasn't really that complicated, though, once they got there, and they just had to fight these drones and then get out alive, so it wasn't that complicated. Jinar was a little bit more interesting. That was where they go to the Trill planet, and Hugh has to connect with one of the symbionts. He doesn't actually have it put into him or anything, but he connects, and and the guy's basically able to inhabit his body and take them on a bit of a journey to get the puzzle piece, which is a bit of a test, and Michael and Book end up having to fight these giant monsters and work out they're just protecting their eggs, and basically it's more of a lesson to see what their character is before he gives them the piece that was not where it was a bit of a red herring. But they get it, they win, of course. Now, Face the Strange, this is actually the episode with the spider and jumping time and space, because the other episode didn't have a lot happening. It just reminded me that that's where Adira was there. Yeah, it's a interesting. They talk about how important it is to know the crew, because the first officer that's come on has a different approach. So there was some interesting. I like that some people push back against Michael, but in this case, she was actually right for a change, and the other person was wrong. Now, mirrors, they find the ISS Enterprise that's trapped in some sort of anomaly. They go on and they find like a mole there, and they sort of fight them for the piece, and they manage to escape at the last minute, but they don't get the piece. So the next episode, Iriga, that's them again. They're on Discovery. They're negotiating with the Breen. And I think Luck ends up dead at the end of that episode. I feel like I missed one. Oh, Whistle Speak. Sorry, sixth episode was Whistle Speak. That was where they go down. There's this machine that is running the weather, and these people have made up some primitive superstitions about this situation, and they're sacrificing people. And Michael Burnham actually steps in, saves this girl who's the daughter of this priest, and says, "Look, this is technology. Here's how you maintain it. Find some way to get your people out of these superstitions of sacrificing people, because you don't need to do this." So she broke the Prime Directive, but she did it because someone else had interfered with them technologically and affected their growth. So she kind of used that as an excuse, because they had already been polluted on some level, but she was sort of fixing that problem, the problem that was left from them leaving this technology that needed to be maintained. And then we go to the 7th episode, which was Luck and Mull and Luck being killed. And then it becomes not just getting money or getting this item to resell for profit and freedom. Now Mull wants to use it to bring Luck back to life, because she's under the impression it can. Labyrinth is probably my favourite episode, because we're finally off, desert sort of planets and things, and because there was one episode where they go to like a mall on like a desert planet. It felt like a desert planet, but it's like this sort of primitive planet, and they had an android, a Sung type android called Fred, who sort of was able to read some of the information in this thing and show them where the first puzzle piece was and everything. So some of those episodes I didn't enjoy so much. This one, Labyrinth, it's amazing. They go to this giant library in space, and it's this station that moves location every few years to keep itself safe, and it's just this never-ending series of central libraries that go down, and each level is like a hectagon or whatever that shape is, and it's just amazing. I could live in this place like forever, like this giant library. And of course the Breen show up and threaten the place, and they have to save them, and they do end up opening the puzzle and getting the location for the Progenitor's tech. I have mentioned that this is all about the Progenitor's tech, haven't I? Did I just mention that in the other video? Basically, they discover this is all about the Progenitor's tech, their location, and of course they need to keep that information safe, and of course they're also hoping to find out something about, the origins of life in the galaxy and the origins of life in general, and spirituality and all these. Is there a God? Is there more? All these sort of questions sort of come up for some people in relation to that, and they end up giving it to Luck and Mull, but Burnham knows from her experience in the library that she has information that Mull needs. So Mull's not, even if she gets the piece, she's not going to be able to unlock the puzzle inside. So she's like, okay with that situation. Now, Langridge Point, this is where they're preparing to fight. They actually go into the Breen's ship in disguise and try to get the tech back and all that. And was that the episode before? I think I'm confused. Labyrinths, by the way, the Labyrinths are hidden in the Badlands, which look a lot different from the Badlands in Voyager and Deep Space Nine and that. So it was a little disappointing, but that's kind of how Discovery is. It's like an alternative universe due to copyright and an alternate timeline, and sort of what people think is a better visual style or a visual reboot, which usually isn't. Yeah, the Badlands is the one with the library and a Breen, and they end up opening the puzzle. So the last two episodes, they just feel like one episode because it's just sort of, they're just preparing to fight, preparing to take on the Breen. It's all governed, talking to the Vulcans and everyone, and politics and strategy. And then the last episode is just life itself. The last episode is basically Michael Burnham has gone into the it's kind of like a probe that is storing the it's like the size of a shuttle. It's storing all the progenitor's tech. She goes into it after Mole. She follows her in, and then the whole episode she's just in this weird environment with all these different windows and different places that can take you to different planets, presumably all the planets where they've seeded life. And she fights with Mole. Mole is incapacitated to a degree, and Michael assures her, promises her that I will find out if we can bring Light back. And she talks to the progenitor and finds out that no, they can't. They could bring back his body, but it wouldn't have his personality or his memories or anything. It wouldn't really be him. So she has to tell her, no, you can't bring him back. But she decides for the whole of the galaxy, because she's Michael Burnham, she's Space Jesus. And that's one part I didn't like, again, about this season is you sort of have Michael sort of in the end taking on the sort of big bad or the big situation. The rest of the crew had things to do on the outside with the Breen, but Star Trek's supposed to be an ensemble show about diverse people coming together and being like, Starship Earth for all the different people, and it's all about them coming together to solve solutions, not just one person being like a superhero. That's one element of the whole series that I didn't like. At least in season 4, the crew was sort of doing their own thing. It felt like a little Mission Impossible sort of situation, and I felt like they were both sort of just taking different sides of the same problem, whereas this was very much Michael sort of standing on her own and sort of coming to these sort of conclusions. But the conclusion is, we can't handle this, we can't let it get into the hands of other people, so we're just going to jettison it into the event horizon of a black hole and leave it there so no one else can get to it, basically. And that's sort of how it all ends out for the episode. The way the original episode ended was Saru's wedding, but because they got cancelled, and they did get cancelled. They were expecting to do a 6th season. I don't know what story they could have told after this, and what direction they could have gone in after this, because they got it right. They finally got it right in the 4th season, and then they were like, okay, let's do something different. I'm like, you finally had Star Trek. You're finally doing like a Star Trek story. Keep doing that. And they veered more for an adventure Indiana Jones sort of thing, for a little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of Star Trek, but they just seemed to be determined to try all these different directions instead of just staying on the one like Star Trek-like direction. So apparently they got cancelled and they asked to do a double episode or a movie-length episode or something, and they're like, no, we're not giving you any more money, you cancelled. But I'm guessing they had some money set aside for reshoots because they were able to get like a couple of days to do these two scenes, this little epilogue where Michael is at home and she gets picked up to go to the Discovery, which has been sort of refitted to look like it did in Calypso, and she has to take it out, and she's basically telling Zora, I'm just going to take you out to a certain location and leave you there, and you're just going to wait. And in theory, she sort of implies that if she waits long enough, she'll outlive them, and she can come back and find their ancestors or something. So maybe she's not meant to be there forever, just a time period, but it is a mystery. And the weirdest thing is, in the last episode I forgot, she meets up with the David Cronenberg character again, who's been there all season, and he reveals he's Daniels. Not that he looks like those two actors could be the same character, but basically he's Daniels, and he says they're going to end the Red Directives. But yet, when she's talking to Zara and Zora is asking, why are we doing this? She's like, it's the Red Directives, so you know how they go. I can't really tell you anything. So it's like, could they not come up with an actual answer for how Calypso happened or what it meant? Or did they want to leave a mystery? Was it always meant to be a mystery? But I was surprised they found the need to connect Calypso and the final season and the final episode. It's kind of nice, but it sort of seems a bit odd because they seem to be a random short tracks that was written before they decided to move to the 31st century, so it didn't make a lot of sense. But after the episode finishes, it just finishes with her going to warp, and that's it. after that I watched Calypso, so you sort of end with Calypso, not the actual final episode. But yeah, it was okay. I don't know what they would have done for the sixth season. I guess they just would have done another type of story that sort of was different. But every episode, every season being this, universe-ending sort of issue that has to be resolved, and there's always an enemy they have to fight, and it's a bit much. Star Trek really wasn't like that, and when every story is that in parts, even if the individual parts have some Star Trek-like stories in them, the overall sort of gets a bit tiresome. So I'm not sure how long they could have kept doing that same sort of format of the long-form storytelling novel in chapters, where it's sort of the last couple of episodes are just fighting the enemy, and they're always going to win when it comes to the Federation or the galaxy, being threatened. At least if you're dealing with a smaller story with maybe just an alien species, it can go any way, because you're not talking about destroying the whole galaxy. Maybe it's just one race or one situation failing. But so it ended. I did enjoy it for the most part, but it just wasn't the story I really like. So even though it was done well, I didn't enjoy it as much as the fourth season. I felt they really only got one good season out of the show. Season 1 had huge problems. Season 3 had huge problems. Season 2 was okay. Season 4 was the best, and Season 5 was okay. And yeah, they ended off on an okay note, but I'm not sure where they would have gone. But I think actually, in part, that last couple of days shoot was really just an excuse to get the cast back, just for one last shot of them on the bridge. And it wasn't a memory. It was like a memory, but it was also like she was remembering what it was like to be on the bridge, but it's also like a reunion. So it was like some weird little, I guess, reuniting with ghosts or memories or something. Michael basically is just sitting there, and then she hears Saru talking, and then now all of a sudden she's young again, and all the crew's there. Except I don't think Wilson Cruz was there, because he's got one shot of his face, and it kind of looks like it's been put in with special effects. His collar doesn't look right. And they had a couple of, looks like an extra in his medical uniform for the other shots. But either way, at least he was there. But I hear that he wasn't actually there for the shoot. But so that's the end of Discovery. After this, I'm going to watch Picard, season 1, 2, 3, and end with season 3 of Picard pretty much. And I've sort of done my New Trek marathon, and I'm going to have to do some other things and come back to Star Trek, because I couldn't go all the way through Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager to get to Picard, season 3, which I really wanted to watch. And also, I was going to do a chronological marathon, then I realised, of course, Discovery season 3, 4, and 5, and I really want to see season 5 because I hadn't actually watched this, because I watched some clips and I watched some reviews, and I sort of did my thoughts on each episode, but I didn't actually technically review each episode because I hadn't seen each episode till now. So I did want to see the series. I bought it on DVD like a year ago. Didn't have time to actually watch it, wanted to do it as part of a marathon, so I finally got to watch it. But I'm not sure what my point there was. I'm at the end, it's okay. But yeah, I finally got to watch it. Oh, that's right, just the order. I was going to do it in a different order, and I realised chronologically the last thing I'd be watching would be Discovery, and I wanted to end on Picard season 3 for now, so I just ended up doing a New Trek marathon, and now I will just do an original Star Trek marathon, which I guess will end with Voyager, I guess, unless I want to do Picard season 3 again. But yeah, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Discovery overall, Discovery season 5, and how they ended off the series. I mean, I felt a little bit bad for them they didn't get to do that final episode, or that movie-length episode, or film as much as they wanted to conclude the series as a whole and their stories, because they thought they were going to do a 6th season. They were planning to go on. They had mentioned 7 seasons at one point, so they were planning to do a 6th and 7th season when they were doing season 5, and they were cancelled outright, and it was ended. And, they only basically got a couple of days to do an epilogue, and that's it, which was a little harsh, but that's the way business goes. If you're not making money, you're not successful, they just want to end it as soon as possible and save the bleed, basically. And that's what they did. But I still feel bad for the actors and that. After seeing some of their interviews and that about how it ended and how they had to sort of put together this little epilogue last minute. But yeah, I'm going to go. Let me know what you thought of it all.